Hi, let us today discuss about the topic urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is a hollow viscera which acts like a reservoir of urine. Position, that means where it is located. In the children and in neonates, the urinary bladder, the neck of the urinary bladder, this is considered as the neck of the urinary bladder, lies at the level of, this one is the pubic symphysis. So the neck of the urinary bladder lies along at the level of the upper margin of pubic symphysis. Since the urinary bladder in a children is abdominopelvic, whereas in case of adults, if you see, this is the neck of the urinary bladder. It is in relation to the lower part of pubic symphysis. The neck of the urinary bladder is coinciding with the lower margin of the pubic symphysis in adults, whereas in case of children, the neck of the urinary bladder is coinciding with the upper margin of pubic symphysis. In the adults, it is pelvic in position. In the children, it is abdominopelvic in position. Here it is abdominopelvic because the pelvic region is not well developed in case of children. Coming to its shape, normally when empty, the shape is tetrahedral in shape. When empty, the shape is tetrahedral in shape, but when it is filled with urine, the shape changes to ovoid or somewhat rounded or ovoid in shape. Capacity, if you see here, average capacity of the urinary bladder is 120 to 150 ml. The mean capacity is around 220 ml. Sense of filling of the bladder starts from 100 to 150 ml. Physiological capacity without any undue discomfort varies from 250 to 450 ml. This all depends upon the stress factors and hormonal factors, etc. First desire to pass urine appears from 150 to 250 ml. What you call like anatomical capacity is like the volume of the urine before the rupture of the bladder. It is called as the anatomical capacity, that is the maximum capacity before the rupture of the bladder. Then painful sensations to pass urine appears over 450 ml. If the volume of urine crosses over 450 ml, the painful sensations appears. Now coming to the presenting parts, urinary bladder consists of apex, base, neck, borders and surfaces. For better understanding, I just go with a model here. First you see the model based on created by paper. You see, this is the urinary bladder will be like this. Urinary bladder will be like this. It consists of apex. Which is directed upwards and forwards. So it is upwards and forwards. This portion is now the apex. This diagram is this diagram is of this view. This is apex. This one is the apex. This is the base. This one is the base, the orange one. Similarly, this is the base here. Okay. This is the base. Okay. Then we have the neck, that is the lowermost part. This one is the neck of the bladder. That is this portion which is the neck of the bladder. Okay. It is having an apex, base, this is the base, orange one, and the neck is below. Similarly, it is having borders and surfaces, like these are the two lateral borders. Here, this is one, this one. So these two are the lateral borders. In between the two lateral borders, whatever you are seeing, this green one is the superior surface. This surface is superior surface. Is it clear? Similarly, this is the posterior border. This is the posterior border. This dotted line is the posterior border in the diagram. This is the posterior border and this dotted line is the posterior border. and these are the two ureters which are opening along the lateral angle of the base. So this is a base. Along the lateral angles of the base you find the openings of two ureters. This is one left ureter and this is right ureter based on this diagram. Now coming to this one, this lower one, this is the anterior border. That means this one, this is the anterior border. The region between these two pink one is the anterior border. Is it clear? So which extends from the apex, anterior border extends from the apex to the neck. So this is apex, from the apex it is extending to the neck. So this, why it is called anterior border? Because urinary bladder is like this, it is not like this, it is like this. So it is facing anteriorly. Is it clear? And these two surfaces between the anterior border and the lateral border is right lateral surface or inferolateral surface, right-sided inferolateral surface. And similarly between the anterior border and this lateral border is left-sided inferolateral surface. See here I have written as left inferolateral surface because the view is like this. This diagrammatic view is like this. Left ureter, right ureter, apex, left lateral border, left inferolateral surface. This is a base. This is a superior surface. This one is superior surface. Is it clear now? Now with this idea it becomes very easy for you to understand the urinary bladder. Okay. Description of the parts now. This apex, it is directed above and forwards in relation to the umbilicus. It is facing towards the umbilicus. And this apex gives attachment to this ligament. This ligament is called median umbilical ligament. Apex gives attachment to ligament called median umbilical ligament, which is a remnant of allantois, which is fibrosed to form urachus. So it is a remnant of the urachus. Now next one, this is a base. This one is the base, or this is the base. Base is directed backwards and downwards, hence it is also called as postero-inferior surface. Base, or this is a base or postero-inferior surface, or even it is also called as fundus. It is also called as fundus of urinary bladder. Base, postero-inferior surface, fundus, all are same. This base is the relations of the base. If you see this base, now in this diagram if you see, this is the urinary bladder and this is a base. This one is the base. Base is related to what structures? It is related to rectum. Base is related to rectum, separated by, this one is vas deferens, ampulla of vas deferens, and this coiled one is seminal vesicle. Base is related to the vas deferens and seminal vesicle in the majority of its part, but in its upper part, if you see in its upper 1/3 here, it is reflected to peritoneum. This is a rectovesical pouch. This pouch is called as rectovesical pouch. This rectovesical pouch is related only to the upper 1/3 of the base, and the rest of the area is related to ampulla of vas deferens and seminal vesicle. The same thing if you see, this is a posterior view. Posterior view of the base. See, this dotted region is the portion where it is related to peritoneum. What peritoneum? Rectovesical pouch. And the rest of the area which is non-peritoneal, this is a base, but it is also related to two tubular structures. Medially the vas deferens, laterally the seminal vesicle on either sides. Is it clear now? This portion of the base is considered, which is not covered with the peritoneum and not related to either these structures, is called as external trigone of urinary bladder. Okay. So other than these structures, the base is related to rectum, vas deferens, seminal vesicle, in the upper 1/3 by the peritoneum, and also by this rectovesical fascia of Denonviller. Rectovesical, these dotted lines is the rectovesical fascia of Denonviller, which is attached below to the perineal body and above to the base or bottom of rectovesical pouch. So these are the relations of the base in case of males. Now if you see the same thing in relation to females, this diagram if you see, this is the urinary bladder, this is vagina, and this is a uterus. So the urinary bladder is not related to rectum here because some structures are coming in between that. That is the base of the urinary bladder is completely non-peritoneal. Unlike males, it is covered with peritoneum in its upper 1/3. But in case of females, there is no peritoneal relation. It is non-peritoneal. And it is related to the anterior wall of the vagina. This is a vagina. It is related to the anterior wall of the vagina and also to some portion of supravaginal part of the cervix of uterus. This portion also is related partly. That is supravaginal portion of the cervix, anterior wall of the vagina is related to the urinary bladder base in females. Now we finished with apex, we finished with the base. Coming to the neck, this is the neck. Neck is the lowermost portion of the urinary bladder. Neck is the lowermost part of the urinary bladder. This is the neck in males. This is the neck in females. And in males, close to the neck, and from the neck, the urethra extends as a continuation from the internal urethral orifice, being surrounded by the prostate gland in male. So this neck is somewhat here. Neck is the posterior most part of the anterior border, and it is situated low in the lower part of the base. Somewhere here the neck is present, and from here the urethra extends downwards, being surrounded by prostate in case of males. So this is about the neck. Coming to the superior surface. Now this is the superior surface. This is the superior surface. Superior surface lies between which two borders? Two lateral border. This is a left lateral border. This is right lateral border. So this one is the left lateral border. This one is right lateral border. Between that, it is the superior surface. This superior surface, in case of males, it is related to the lower part of the sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon will come like this and turns backwards to become continuous as rectum, which is related to the base. So it is partially related to sigmoid colon and coils of ileum in case of males. But whereas in case of females, if you see, this is the base, it is related to what structure? It is related to the anteverted uterus. The uterus which is not straight, it is bent forwards. So that is called as anteverted uterus. So the superior surface of the urinary bladder in case of females is related to the anteverted uterus, separated by this peritoneal fold, which is this is uterovesical fold. This is uterovesical fold of peritoneum. Is it clear? So this is about the superior surface in case of females. Coming to the two inferolateral surfaces. These are the two inferolateral surfaces. If you see this surface, this is a urinary bladder, and this portion forms the two inferolateral surfaces. This is the urinary bladder. This one is the urinary bladder. This is urethra, and this one is the prostate, and this surface forms the inferolateral surface. So this surface is related to a space on either sides. This space is called space of Rhesus. It is called as space of Rhesus. This space, that means the portion here, whatever the portion, empty portion, whatever you are seeing in this in relation to this surface, is the space of the Rhesus. This is a horseshoe-shaped potential space seen by the sides of the inferolateral surfaces of the urinary bladder, which is filled with fat, retropubic fat, and consists of vesical plexus of veins. Is it clear? So space of the Rhesus is forming the relation of the inferolateral surface. This space is a horseshoe-shaped space filled with the contents being the fat and vesical plexus of veins. Coming to the boundaries of this space of the Rhesus. The space of the Rhesus in front is related to the pubic symphysis and pubic crest, inner aspect of the pelvic surface of the pubis, and laterally it is related to this is obturator internus muscle. So laterally it is related to obturator internus and fascia covering the obturator internus, and posteriorly it is related to levator ani muscle and the fascia covering it. The fascia covering the levator. This is the fascia covering it. Overall, The space of the rhesus is bounded medially by the infralateral surface of the urinary bladder, anteriorly by the pubic symphysis and pelvic surface of the pubis, laterally by the fascia covering the obturator internus, posteriorly by the fascia covering the levator ani. So this space of the rhesus contents are retropubic fat and vesical plexus of veins, and the importance of this space is it allows the expansion of the urinary bladder. When the urinary bladder is filled with urine, there should be space for it to expand, and that space is at the expense of this space of the rhesus. And the surgeries of the urinary bladder, the open surgeries of the urinary bladder, are approached by the surgeons through this space. Is it clear now? So this is all about the space of the rhesus, which is forming the relations on the infralateral surface. Now coming to the borders, there is nothing much in the borders. Anterior border is this one. This is the anterior border which lies between two infralateral surface, extending from the apex to the neck. These two are the lateral borders. In between the two lateral borders, it is the superior surface. That means each lateral border separates the superior surface from infralateral surface. This is the posterior border. This is the posterior border. The posterior border separates the superior surface from the base. Along the lateral ends of the posterior border, there is an opening called a ureteric opening, through which the ureters enter into the bladder and that convey the urine into the bladder. Is it clear now? So this is all about the borders, surfaces and the features and the presenting parts of the urinary bladder. Now coming to the ligaments of the urinary bladder. There are true ligaments and false ligaments. True ligaments are fibrous bands. These are the fibrous bands, and out of this there are 9 ligaments, out of which one is developmental fibrous band and the remaining are formed by the condensation of the pelvic fascia. Is it clear now? Totally the true ligaments are 9 in number, 4 paired and 1 unpaired. The unpaired one is developmental, and that is a fibrous band which is nothing but the medial umbilical ligament, which is a remnant of the urachus, which in turn is a fibrosed part of the allantois or allantoic diverticulum coming from the hindgut. Okay. And the remaining 8, that means 4 pairs of true ligaments which are formed by the condensation of the pelvic fascia are. If you see this diagram, this is this one. These two are the puboprostatic or pubovesical ligaments on either sides. This is medial puboprostatic ligament of right side. This is lateral puboprostatic ligament of right side. Similarly, these are on the left side. So these 4 are puboprostatic or pubovesical ligaments. The medial one is from the urinary bladder. It is attached to the pubic symphysis, and the lateral one from the urinary bladder, it extends to the lateral pelvic wall. So these are the 4 puboprostatic or pubovesical ligaments. These are what I am indicating. These are the next one, that is a pair of lateral ligaments. These are the pair of lateral ligaments which extends from the infralateral surface of the urinary bladder to the lateral pelvic wall. Is it clear? And the 4th one is this one. This is a pair of posterior true ligaments. It is a pair of posterior true ligaments which extends from the lateral angles of the base, extends downwards and backwards to be attached to the lateral pelvic wall. On its way, it merges with this fascia which is called as rectovesical fascia, and these posterior true ligaments of the bladder are considered as the strongest ligament of the bladder. Is it clear? I repeat, there are 9 true ligaments. One is developmental, which is median umbilical ligament. Then 4 puboprostatic ligaments, 2 on either sides. It can be puboprostatic or it can be pubovesical. When it is extending from the pubis to the vesicle, to the urinary bladder, it is called pubovesical ligaments. Sometimes it may extend bit downwards, then it is called as puboprostatic ligaments because it is related to the prostate. A pair of lateral ligaments extending towards the lateral pelvic wall, and posterior true ligaments to the posterior lateral pelvic wall on its posterior side. False ligaments are 7 in number, which are peritoneal folds. 3 are in the middle, which are in that one is unpaired, that is a median umbilical fold. Covering this median umbilical ligament is median umbilical fold. A pair of medial umbilical folds which covers the obliterated umbilical artery. Then lateral folds which extends along laterally to the lateral pelvic wall, and sacrogenital fold which runs backwards to be attached to the second or third sacral vertebra. Is it clear? So those are the false ligaments. Coming to the bladder bed, what structures are forming the bed for the urinary bladder? If you see from front, it is pubic symphysis. Along the sides, it is in front and slightly laterally the pelvic surface of pubis. More laterally, the fascia covering the obturator internus. Posteriorly, the fascia covering the levator ani. And more posteriorly, in the midline, it is rectum. Below, the prostate gland in males, and superior fascia of urogenital diaphragm. This is urogenital diaphragm in case of females. All these structures are forming the bed of urinary bladder. Okay. Now coming to the interior, this is important. In the interior of the bladder, if you cut open the hollow viscera, if you see an equilateral triangular region called trigone of urinary bladder. To be accurate, it is called as internal trigone of urinary bladder. Within the posterior wall of the urinary bladder, you find a trigone. This trigone is important for you in the examination. In the theory part, it can be asked. Many times it came. So this trigone is an equilateral triangular region seen in the mucous membrane of the interior of the bladder along its posterior wall, which is shiny and glistening, due to the absence of submucous coat in this region. It is clear? There is no submucosa in this region, that's why it appears thin and more shiny. Okay. The boundaries of this trigone of the urinary bladder are: apex is formed by the internal urethral orifice from where the urethra begins. Close to the apex, along its posterior aspect, you find a small elevation called uvula vesicae, seen only in males, not in females. It is a feature seen only in the males. A small elevation or dilatation seen posterior to the internal urethral orifice in the males, and this elevation is produced by the median lobe of the prostate gland present below. And the region where this uvula vesicae is present, that region is considered as a sphincter vesicae because it acts like a sphincter. That region is called sphincter vesicae. Okay. That is internal, this is internal urethral orifice. Base is above, which is wider and formed by the region between the two ureteric openings. These two ureters, they are opening. That means this is forming the, in the inside it is forming the base. In the inside it is forming the base between the two ureteric openings, which is called as interureteric ridge or Mercier's bar. Interureteric ridge or Mercier's bar. This ureteric orifices normally is an oblique slit. It is oblique in position. The shape of it is oblique. But in the diseases, the shape changes. In the diseases of the ureter, you can see particularly the disease of the tuberculosis of the ureter. Because of the shortening of the ureters, these ureteric openings in case of the urinary bladder becomes rounded, where we call it as golf hole ureter. It resembles the golf hole. Hence it is called golf hole ureter, ureteric openings. Okay. And the side walls are formed. These side walls are formed by ureteric lines. The side walls are formed by the ureteric lines. This is all about the boundaries of the internal trigone of the urinary bladder. The structure wise, if you see, if you take a section of it and see from within outwards, it consists of mucosa. There is no submucosa. Instead of submucosa, there is a muscle called trigonal muscle of Bell. Trigonal muscle of Bell. Outside to this, there is a fascia of Waldeyer. Outside to this, there is a fascia of Waldeyer, and further outside to this, that is a muscular layer, which is nothing but the detrusor muscle of the urinary bladder. Which is nothing but the detrusor muscle of the urinary bladder. In fact, the entire female urethra and the prostatic part of the male urethra is considered as the neck of the bladder, because the muscle of the urinary bladder, that is this muscle, detrusor muscle, is extending onto that portion also. Okay. The importance, this is very important, the internal trigone of the urinary bladder importance is, it is the most fixed part of the urinary bladder. It is the most dependent part of the urinary bladder. It is richly supplied with blood. It is having a rich nerve supply. And the fifth one, it is developed from the mesoderm. Is it clear? The importance or peculiarities of the urinary bladder, the internal trigone of the urinary bladder is, it is the most fixed part, it is the most dependent part, it is richly supplied with blood, it is richly supplied with nerves, and it is developed from the mesoderm. Rest of the mucous membrane of the urinary bladder is developed from endoderm. Remember this. Remember, urinary bladder, entire urinary bladder mucous membrane is developed from the endoderm, whereas the trigone of the urinary bladder is developed from the mesoderm. Hence, the trigone of the urinary bladder is said as island of mesoderm in the ocean of endoderm. Is it clear now? Developmentally, the trigone of the urinary bladder can be called as island of mesoderm in the ocean of endoderm. Is it clear? Now, coming to the applied aspect of this trigone. Number one, normally the prostate gland in males, as age advances, once the individual starts growing at about 50-55 years, the prostate should start atrophy. In majority of the cases, it will become atrophied, but in some cases it enlarges. Then it is called as prostatic hypertrophy, which can be benign, which can be malignant. So when there is an enlargement of the prostate gland, its median lobe also enlarges. Thus, median lobe, when it is enlarging, this uvula vesicae also will enlarge and will affect the sphincteric action of the uvula. Hence, the patient, when he wants to void urine, that uvula vesicae will block the internal urethral orifice, resulting in only dribbling of the urine. And that patient always is subjected to frequent micturition. Plenty of times he will attempt to void urine, but he can void only few drops due to the enlargement of the uvula vesicae, which is contained within the sphincter vesicae. And this uvula vesicae is nothing but the medial, it is produced by the medial lobe of the prostate gland. Next, if you see the blood supply, arterial supply, urinary bladder is supplied by the branches of internal iliac artery. Internal iliac arteries. And these branches are superior vesical artery, superior vesical arteries in both the cases, in males and females. This superior vesical artery is a persistent proximal part of umbilical arteries. The umbilical arteries, after birth, the proximal part of it remains pervious and forms superior vesical artery, and the rest of the umbilical arteries is converted into medial umbilical ligaments. Okay. Then inferior vesical artery only in males. Instead, it is replaced by vaginal artery in females. In case of females, it is vaginal artery. In case of males, inferior vesical artery. And the other branches are obturator artery, inferior gluteal arteries, and even uterine artery in females. All these are the branches of internal iliac which supplies the urinary bladder. Coming to the venous drainage, the vesical plexus of veins which are present in the space of the Rhesus, they empty into the venous drainage, they empty finally into the external iliac veins. Is it clear? They drain finally into internal iliac veins. They drain finally into internal iliac veins. Lymphatic drainage, they drain into external iliac lymph nodes. The apex and inferolateral surface drain into the anterior group of external iliac nodes. The superior surface drains into intermediate group of external iliac nodes. The base is drains into posterior group of external iliac nodes. Nerve supply, the sympathetics are derived from the lateral horn cells of T11 to L2 segments, and the parasympathetics are derived from S2, 3, 4, and this is called as nervi erigents. Nervi erigents. Development, the urinary bladder develops, entire mucous membrane develops from the endoderm except for the trigone, which is formed by the mesoderm by the absorption of the tubular mesonephric ducts of either side. The apex of the urinary bladder is developed from the persistent proximal part of the allantoic diverticulum. That forms the apex, and the musculature is derived from the splanchnic mesoderm, lateral plate of splanchnopleuric mesoderm. Okay. Applied aspects, if you see, so in case of the uvula, we have talked about this. In case of enlargement of the prostate, the dribbling of urine and all those things. The second one in case of uvula is in case of tuberculosis of the ureter, these holes, the shape of these ureteric openings may become rounded. The shape of this one may become rounded, and this interureteric ridge acts as a guide for the surgeons to introduce a catheter in case of retrograde pylography to identify the openings of the ureter. The visualization of the bladder can be done by a procedure called cystogram or cystography, a radiological procedure. Developmental disorders, if you see, due to faulty developments, the rectum and the urinary bladder may be connected by rectovesical fistula. Due to faulty development in females, even the vagina is connected with the urinary bladder, which is called as vesicovaginal fistula. Usually the median umbilical ligament, which is a fibrosed part of the allantois, which is called as the urachus. Instead of being fibrosed, if it remains patent, it leads to urachal fistula. That means from the urinary bladder, a tract is formed which opens into the urinary bladder, and the urine can be extravasated through umbilicus because of the persistence of this urachus, which remains patent. That means it is not obliterated. If only a portion of the this median umbilical ligament is patent and elsewhere it is obliterated, it gives rise to formation of a cyst, which is called as urachal cyst. Similarly, sometimes the urinary bladder may be exposed onto the anterior abdominal wall below the umbilicus, which is called as ectopic vesicate. All these are the developmental disorders which probably in the developmental class you will be knowing much better. This is all about the gross anatomy of urinary bladder. Thank you.